Hello and welcome to MindLift, your destination to optimize your peak health performance. Inspired by real life stories and backed by science.
Brought to you by the Brain and Performance Center, a DP World company, filmed here in the vibrant city of Dubai.
So I'm Dr. Umair, and I'm joined today by Taif, our physical performance lead at the Brain and Performance Center. And we're joined again by two absolutely incredible individuals. Just to give you a bit of context, we met and did a podcast approximately a month ago with James and Paris. And this was before they were about to embark on arguably one of the craziest challenges there are. 7 marathons, 7 continents in 7 days. Fast forward a month and we are here. They are still alive and with us. And we're going to talk through their whole experience, some of the challenges that they encountered, and how they feel being now on the other side. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce James and Paris. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having us back.
Yeah. So quite a month for you too?
Yeah. No, it's been funny actually, because somebody posted on social media, "How was your February?" You know, and you post the 5 different top 6 photos or something like that, and I was like, and then I put up ours, and everyone's like, "Oh, come on, you can't beat that!" Like we've been to every continent on the planet, and it's only like February, halfway through February.
We're making a big push for March. We just left February to you lads.
Yeah.
I remember posting straight after posted all the medals, and I said, "How was your week?"
Yeah, it was mad. You know, I used this term before. I said this is going to be like a tumble dryer. And I think that just described it, because it really was like a tumble dryer. You know, one day we were in Madrid and it's cold and we're on a racetrack, and then like you close your eyes and now you're in Brazil and we're on the beach and it's like super hot.
You did not close your eyes in Brazil.
No, I didn't close my eyes in Brazil.
The darkest pair of sunglasses ever seen in Brazil.
Yeah, so look, it was very enjoyable. We loved it. It was amazing. It was definitely a memory that will be there. It's a story that we'll be telling for a very long time, and you know, it's the person you become through these journeys. That's what you take with you, and I think we both have learned something from it, and I guess that's what we're here to talk about.
So 2 very different challenges within this super crazy challenge. And I think we touched on it at the start, how we had 2 individuals embarking on this challenge, but physically having a significant obstacle, and from your point of view, something completely new. So let's start with you, James, because I think this was, for me, and arguably us, the biggest story and probably the biggest success.
Don't let Paris hear you say it's the biggest story. Yeah, so obviously month and a half ago or so, when we did this podcast, I was in a situation where reality was starting to hit that I wasn't going to be fully fit for the start of the challenge, and we were doing our utmost with the team here at Brain Performance Center to try and get me as close as possible to that mark. And it started really well in Antarctica. I didn't need crutches. I started quite strongly. Took it a little bit apprehensively. We went a bit slower in Antarctica, because you're meant to do about an hour and 10 minutes slower than you normally do. Started off and I felt really good, and I was like, just maybe, we can do this. Without sleep, without the right fuel, and without the time to warm up properly, it then deteriorated pretty quickly, which we'll come on to later. But mentally, it was a total mind shift of where we needed to get to that start point, and I found myself going, right, I'm going to do this fast, or try and do this as fast as possible to completion, which is for me quite different in how I approach things. As Paris would probably mention, I either go at 100 miles an hour or I go at quite a slow pace. So I had to, along the journey, which we'll come on to, I had to set myself little challenges to keep myself interested, and to keep myself pushing. But yeah, it was certainly a challenge.
I think from our side, we were on a big Brain and Performance WhatsApp group following you gents, and we had some of our staff with you for some of the races. And, you know, after Antarctica, we looked at the times and we were just buzzing, you know. And then Cape Town, a silence descended on that WhatsApp group. And then we were sent a video of you on crutches, but it wasn't from the like a mobile phone. It was like CCTV footage. Yeah, and we were like, oh dear, here we go. And then there was, you know, a long time of radio silence, and
I
then
think you broke it with an emoji of a teary face, and I think that pretty much summed up the mood.
yeah, we thought, well, this is marathon number 2.
Yeah.
There's 5 more, and how on earth are we going to get you over the line? And
Yeah, that was a worrying moment. There were a lot of mental readjustments for both of us, but probably nothing quite as significant as what James went through in the Cape Town race, because it was really like, it's crazy because we knew you were injured. We knew there was going to be a wall at some point. I guess we had not really taken into consideration how bad that's going to be and what are we going to do about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were always going to be reactive to it, and we had the Brain Performance Center sort of with us the whole time in order to be able to react to it. But just to go on your point there, you said sort of James was had the bigger physical challenges. But if we go back a year ago, that was me, right? That I had the bigger physical challenges in the sense that James was super fit, was much more capable, and I was like, God, you know, I've got to get fit, I've got to lose weight, I've got to get better at running. But I was able to sort of, I guess, be more consistent with that. But my goal was like, don't get injured, because I know that I couldn't take my body as far as James could go. And on
that, Paris, one of the things you said to me, we had a chat about what were your learning points, what would you perhaps do differently, and one of the things when Paris, you said when you came to your second marathon, you were like, right, you had a race plan from the outset, and then the reality of when you're in battle, it changes very quickly. So yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, you remember beforehand, we sat down and you said, how are you going to run these races? And I said, I'm going to set paces because I want to run them with intention, right? That changed. Because one thing, and I think this is where it's a really interesting learning process about mental resilience, which is what we both went through. It wasn't like we had mental resilience and that's why we got through. We were willing to learn mental resilience through this challenge, right? And that's what I feel it was. It was a constant process of like, how am I going to get through this? And so my idea was keep your eye on pace, and that will keep you motivated to try and stay almost OCD about getting my pace right. But, you know, I've only ever run very few marathons. I'd run one and then I did another one before I left. So 2 marathons under comparatively perfect conditions, right? Never had I tried running a marathon after running a marathon, or run a marathon after running a marathon, after running a marathon, after running a marathon, after running a marathon. Right?
Or running a marathon in Antarctica.
Oh yeah, or just, you know, being in minus 15 and then in plus 30 the next day, or with 0 sleep at all, 15 hours after the other one, and not having refuel. So basically, running a marathon under perfect conditions is testing your athletic ability. We weren't testing our athletic ability. We were testing our mental resilience, which is running when you haven't slept and all of those things, when everything is not perfect, and it's like, right, now go run one.
So this is why I pushed my body to such limits before I got injured. Now, in hindsight, I should have probably taken that week off after to recuperate and do it, and probably not get on a mechanical bull. But I had pushed myself in doing 8 back-to-backs halves, getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to do so, which I feel part of my journey and how I do fitness is I go back to my rugby days, my cricket days, and you're visualizing what you're going to be putting yourself through. So you need to put yourself in those circumstances. So I think I had put myself in, if I'd gone in there fully fit, in a situation where I'd be extremely confident, maybe top 5, maybe even podium, because that's how I felt. Obviously things change, right? And that's what the mental resilience comes about, where you go, right, okay, can't do that anymore, but now I've got a new challenge. I'm not quitting. Yeah. I'm going for this. We've got our why, we've got our reasons why we're doing it. Maybe they're slightly different to one another, but we've got a common why in the charity.
So one of the things, James, Doc, when I met James prior to taking this on, it was about 6 weeks before you joined Brain Performance Center, and you said, I was like, well, what's your goal for this? And you were setting times, and you were like, actually, the key thing is I want to leave it all out there. And do you feel that despite the crutches, the injury, everything, that's what you did? You left it all out there?
That's a really good question, because I think if I'm truthful to myself, probably I did in most races. The Miami race, my hands were in such pieces. I don't know whether you can see this on camera. I still got the battle scars here. I never trained in crutches before, and I hadn't got much padding on them. I'd done some DIY padding with some tape. Right. So,
but Paris was saying he was going to shave his legs. We could have utilized that. I mean, there's a couple of kilos there that could have helped with the crutches, and it could have helped his time. I mean, you'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So when it came to Miami, my hands were in such pieces after doing back-to-backs in Madrid and Fortaleza. Got to Miami, and I was like, my hands just can't cope anymore. So I took that one relatively easy until the last 10K, and then I thought, well, let's just not leave anything here. And so I worked up a sweat as the sun was coming up, and it was actually quite nice, but painful but nice in a strange sort of dynamic. But yeah, that's the only race that I felt like I could have maybe pushed myself a little bit harder, but it was just the pain. And I was on a lot of painkillers for the last race. But yeah, I think I would like to maybe potentially do it again at some point. Not injured this time.
Wow. Paris, could you say the same?
Done it. Got the medals. I'm out of here. Yeah. I'm wearing those medals on the bar in Hawaii, and I will. But I mean, for me, it's about the experience, So it wasn't really ever about winning. Or I think when you get, if you want to compete like that, it becomes you're never satisfied. You do something like this. You've traveled around the world. You've gone to Antarctica. You've done something mind blowing, and you're unsatisfied about it. Then that's the wrong mindset. I'm massively satisfied by what we did, but I had a mindset of this is an experience, and that's what I was going through. And the Cape Town Marathon, I'm still focusing on this, pace, times, wanting, not really wanting too many people to be ahead of me. I want to be a respect. And then I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. Like, forget that. You're in Cape Town. This is amazing, right? Let's enjoy this. You're with some amazing people. I got a good chance to chat with some of the other runners as I was running. That kept me going, but getting to know them and truly enjoyed the experience, which I knew was the way to go. Ollie Amos, my mate from school who I rode the Pacific with, sent me a message just as I was leaving to go to Antarctica, and I was like, 3:30 in the morning, and he said, remember mate, it's not about times or positions, it's about enjoying the experience. And that's what rowing the Pacific taught me, is because we were constantly like, come on, we've got to beat these guys. I'm like, hang on, when have we ever done this? And when are we ever going to do this again? We're having the time of our life, 4 guys out on the sea. This is amazing. And when you get too competitive about these things, and you just always unsatisfied. So I managed to de-link my brain away from paces and times and everything like that, because I was realizing that was not actually helping me. And then
It was more detrimental.
We have that a lot with clients, and particularly with athletes, when to zoom in and when to zoom out. So like sometimes we're very concerned with data and what it's showing us, and other times we need to be like, put that away. Just how are you feeling? What can you focus in on?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, because for me, it wasn't me being unsatisfied with times, but I feel it's all about feeling, right? So have I pushed myself hard enough? Myself, I'm competing against me, not you, not the winner, not the loser, right? And there's no winners or losers in that race, in my opinion. I think everyone has gone in with a purpose. They've gone in with their own why they're doing it. Maybe, as we know, Laurie and Molly, for example, eldest female athletes to complete this challenge. You've got Estefy, who won it with Tamami. You've got the male guys who won it as well. And then you've got the middle pack of the crew, but each one of those has their own story, that maybe their charities, maybe, etc. So there's no winners or losers, but within yourself, and this is one of my drivers on anything I do, is I want to do something to the best of my ability. So as it turned out, being on crutches, how can I do it to the best of my ability on the crutches? And as we saw, I was able to set myself new challenges on as I was going, to say, right, okay, let's see how much I can push myself. So it's not necessarily about, right, I'm going to set myself a time before I start the race, but as I'm going, I'm feeling good. So right, okay, I'm going to push myself harder. Does that make sense?
And I mean, everybody was celebrated for what they did, but the only person who got a standing ovation and a huge applaud was the person who came last on the Perth marathon, because all of us had run 3 marathons, and we know how difficult this was. James comes in 7.5 hours on crutches, but he didn't stop.
Didn't quit, yeah.
Didn't quit. We did it in nighttime, right? There was potentially snakes around in the dark. You wanted to be running at some pace there, right? Because you couldn't see, but you're just keep going, right? And you got this huge ovation, because we were like, how on earth is this guy still going? They understood he couldn't get through the second marathon without crutches, but he finished the marathon at least, and that was amazing. But he's not quitting. He started this marathon on crutches. So he's not giving up. He's going to do the next ones on crutches, right? And that was a big thing for everybody. And like you said, you'd set yourself a new challenge.
New challenges. I think you've got to break down the end goal. I couldn't think of Miami at that stage, right? So I had to think, right, what's my next goal after Cape Town? So I've gone from massive high in Antarctica, coming to the challenge injured, finishing it in a decent time, feeling on top of the world, created new friendships instantly with a few great guys. Chris Edel, from the US, we went at the same pace in Antarctica and had struck up some great friendships. Like you were saying, some of those conversations and chats you're having are the things that get you through, right?
I heard that when Paris was chatting to them, they all started running faster.
Well, that's true. Yeah. There was a girl called Lindsay, right? And she was trying to get away from him.
Did she break?
There was at one stage in Miami, right, that she started an hour late So she didn't have to run with it.
Because he opened up with,
Yeah,
"Do you
exactly.
come here often?"
Yeah.
Antarctica.
Anyway, going from the real high of Antarctica to the real lows of Cape Town, not knowing what was going to happen, I was literally running in tears. I had sunglasses on, so my ego was still protected. But I was like, the emotions going through my head. We had the sponsors there with Craig and Will. We had potential banana skins of not being able to finish the challenge itself. Managed to get some crutches, and obviously Will and Craig came in and said, basically got those crutches for me, and that enabled me to complete it. But then when I got to Perth, I was like, my only thought process here is complete Perth, so I can get to Dubai. So Dubai, in Dubai, we can have the Brain Performance Centre and the physio Sadaf and David there and around to help us or help me get through this pain. And they worked some miracles. I mean, they really did. How I was able to run in Dubai, I'm like flabbergasted. But it just showed you that there was specific triggers in my injury that we had managed to overcome quite a lot of it. It was just that it was obviously too much running 7 marathons in a row.
But just to give it some context then, so there you are, Cape Town Marathon finished on crutches, Perth, the whole thing pretty much on crutches, and then you arrive in Dubai. We've got the physio beds ready for you at Expo where the marathon's taking place. Fill in the gaps for us then.
And so when I got to Dubai, it was physio 20 minutes, 30 minutes before the marathon. I was meant to start off early on crutches because they knew how long I was taking. And in the back of our heads, we'd organised, as you know, to have hyperbarics and physio sessions here after the marathon. But because I'd done the marathon in Perth, what was it, about nearly 8 hours? 7.5 hours. That was going to be really tight to be able to come back here. Probably wouldn't have managed to do that, which would have been a real detrimental to my next 3. So managing to get out running, even though I was running a bit like a hippopotamus at many stages, I managed to do a half decent time. And then apart from the last 5K, which I broke down on, and I hobbled through, we managed to hit the times that we were expecting, managed to come down here, get into the hyperbarics, get a really good feed.
Well, I didn't hit the times I was expecting. We did a crossover on that one.
Yeah,
You'd come off the crutches, and I was feeling like I needed to go back on them. And I didn't realise quite what a bad state I was in until because I was rushing around with not a lot of worried because we never had enough time to properly eat or go to the toilet and all these things. So I was rushing around trying to make sure I went to the toilet. They were like, no, come and have a massage for a bit. I'm like, no. And then we realised like my calves were bruised all the way through. I was probably one of the heavier runners of everybody, but that puts a lot of pressure on certain muscles. I think the calves just weren't conditioned enough for that many marathons. So then I was starting to worry because I was really struggling, and that was a real mental battle for me because it's like, God, come on, why am I not able to run? Like why? And then I seen James do all right. I'm like, someone call him out. He used crutches last time. It's cheating.
Well, that certainly came about in Madrid, didn't it? Yeah. We'll come on to that in a minute.
But it was amazing because anyway, even though I finished it in my slowest time, it was like 6.5 hours, struggled. We managed to do this F1 pit stop style operation with very limited time. So like it was like, right, finish off in the car, down to the Brain Performance Centre, pasta's ready for me, swallow it down in the hyperbaric chamber, close it off, having physio in the chamber, 1 hour, finished, out there in the car, on the plane.
She reminded me of many things actually, because obviously when you're in that tumble dryer effect of the 7 days, some things are happening and it's sort of almost like an out-of-body experience. You don't really know what's going on, what day of the week it is, what's going on. There's some funny stories. So like in Australia, probably Australia is the one place you don't want to be at night like in the bush, right? And I started off, I was allowed to go off first with a couple of other people who were slow runners as well. And this one guy, actually his name evades me, but I won't say his name on camera. He got caught short, right? So there's still one place you don't want to be caught short is in Australia, right? And anyway, he goes into the like bush basically by the river, right? And then I don't see him again, right? For like, I don't know, about 2 hours. But in that 2 hours, I'm like, has a snake got him? Like, has he fallen in the river? What's going on? And then actually, when I got back to there, it was like his wife was like worried as well. And then eventually, he's just, it's just the longest session I've ever had in whatever. But then, the toilets there as well when along the route. You don't want to be sitting down on a toilet in Australia in the dark. Like, this is at what, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night? Horrible. So I've always found that funny.
It's funny. It's like the things that on paper would be looking at, okay, the fact that you guys have to wake up each day, do a marathon after being on a plane, but there's probably lots of these moments like what you're eating, bathroom, that side of things that becomes like a challenge or trying to fit in or
massively. The plane was an interesting one, wasn't it?
Yeah, and definitely the toilet situation was a difficult one because you're trying to load up on 6,000 calories. At the same time, when you run, generally your gastric system start to say, right, I need the toilet or something, and they start to behave funny, and you're in an unfamiliar place where you don't necessarily know where the toilets are. They do tell you, but for the first couple of laps, you maybe haven't figured that out. Certainly, the toilet situation in Brazil was not good.
That was horrendous. But they're interesting because I managed to get a system rigid, and I was making sure that I got my system correct in terms of when I ate. So we packaged up oats in individual bags with the right sort of stuff with it, a protein with other powders and concoctions in it, our vitamins, etc. And having that at the set time, so I set myself an hour and a half before we landed each time, okay, because you needed hot water, you needed to create it all. That enabled my whole system to be like on point all the time. I was very lucky in Brazil because I was one of the first ones to get to the hotel. As in, when I say a hotel, we didn't sleep there. It was literally just to be able to use their facilities, right? So we were able to change. Mostly always changed on the plane, but when we got to the actual hotel, you can put your shoes on, do a slight warm up, go to the toilet, etc. One of the first ones in there. But there was a guy, the leader of the Brazil leg, and he was like, everyone out, we're starting the race. And like there was like probably a queue of about 30, I would say, for the toilet. One toilet. So being first is okay. It was still not a very nice toilet.
And he said, especially
after the Dubai leg.
Yeah, and he said no, we have to go to the start line. Like that the toilet's only for emergencies. And I was like, well, is it an emergency if 30 people are about to start a marathon or are about to explode? I think this is a big emergency, and I think you need to
just taking the Imodium. Yeah. The doc gave you some Imodium.
And in the end, like an example of that one, I wasn't going to wait that long, so I started the race in the situation where I knew I needed the toilet, but I was going to stop off at another toilet along the way. So I ran 5 kilometers and then I stopped for however long to go to the toilet, which, took,
not ideal.
7 minutes off my time or something. But
it's not about time, Paris.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah. It's about not embarrassing yourself in front of a lot of very attractive women running on the beach. But
they thought you were blind with those dark glasses on.
Again, it wasn't familiar territory. It was always, or let's just say it wasn't perfect conditions. It was making use of what you had. I remember one of the runners, a great guy called Wyatt Moss, who was 23-year-old, run 50 marathons in 50 states in 1 year. Lovely positive energy. We get to the start line of the Madrid marathon. We're all ready, and he turns up with a steak sandwich in his hand, right? Because he hasn't eaten. So what's he going to do? Not eat or run with a steak sandwich. So we did the first lap eating a steak sandwich because he needs it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, so, I mean, in normal conditions, that's absolutely bonkers. You never even eat anything close to a marathon, but if you haven't eaten, then it's actually better to
What's
to
worse,
eat.
right?
Yeah. What's worse? So you just had to make do.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the characters on this trip with you. Did you draw inspiration from any of them? Did you have some comedy moments with some of them?
Yeah, so Wyatt is a really good example of what made this trip so good. Not only was he's 23, he's got an interesting backstory. He's run 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 weeks, right? So less than a year. And his story of that 50 weeks was insane. He comes to Antarctica dressed as a penguin. Right? And straight away, you can't not but like him.
Yeah.
And we're running with him in the initial stages, and we're like, do you know what? This has set the energy to where we need it to be. And he was doing it fairly quickly as well, and it was and his whole attitude was great. I would say he's probably the guy that straight away allowed the energy to go from is this serious at all to let's enjoy this.
Yeah, I remember turning to Wyatt, like we were just getting off the plane. I think we'd run 3 marathons. I went, oh, my legs are killing me. And he goes, no, they don't. And then I was like, there's more wisdom in those words than maybe at first glance. Because actually, somebody who's run 50 marathons, maybe 23, so, is 17 years younger than me. But he is 50 marathons more wiser than me. And when he says, no, they don't, he's not just saying something silly. He means this is all in your mind.
Yeah.
And like the messages you tell yourself are important. And so in those 3 words, he actually had a huge amount of wisdom and experience that was coming into that. And I remember from then on, I was like, no, they don't. You're right. They don't.
Yeah. And then there was every single competitor, right, is got their own inspirational part to that journey. I took inspiration for every single person. Because we're doing laps, you're seeing every person at least. Some people see more, because SV is running faster.
Yeah.
Well,
let's talk about her. So the lady who won it, Stefania, got the world record for the fastest average time doing the 7 marathons. She won, I think, 5 out of 7 of the marathons. 8 children. We turn up in Madrid, and it's like we're the Beatles. Not for us.
Yeah.
For her. She was a big deal. And then somebody said, you want to interview him? And the cameras come over to me, and they're like, ask me a few questions. And then they say, how do you feel about this whole thing going viral? And I was like, I don't know anything about this going viral. I've either been running a marathon or on an airplane. Can you tell me what's going on? But mainly because of her, because she was also a TV celebrity, a massive media whirlwind was taking place that had conjured up by the time we got to Madrid, which was the 5th marathon. This was now in full pace. And we had no idea what was going on. It's like we were in the eye of the storm, which is very, like I said, about like the Beatles. They didn't know what was going on, but the craziness around them was mad. And maybe not quite the same level as the Beatles, but there was something that had generated, and she was a machine and inspirational to watch her. I mean, it was always a bit depressing. You're trying your hardest and you just hit. Been like, oh shit, here she comes again, laughing me another time.
But what I found interesting was and inspirational was that every single person's on the same plane. So in a normal marathon, you wouldn't probably ever know who your competitors are. You'd see them on the start line, and then you're just trying to beat them, right? Whereas this, we're sharing a confined space, sometimes closer to people than you want to be.
Yeah.
And the amount of ice is going on people's legs as the journey continues. I'm sharing a lot of my medications and potions and creams. Exactly. Yeah. But in the actual race, what I took inspirationally was I knew some of these people were in pain, but they were still carrying on. They were probably seeing similar to me on my side as well, and they were probably getting just as much inspiration that way. So we were all helping each other. All our energies were helping each other get through it in different ways. And some people were expressive. Some people were really quiet and just held it within and just maybe
Do you want to tell us about someone who's really quiet when you were doing your run?
I won't mention names, but there was a guy who you would think stereotypically would be a very outgoing person from the south of the States. I was running with him in Dubai, and I was in a happy mood. I was running, that's a bonus at this stage, and I was going at the same speed as him. I think we were doing roughly about 6s per kilometre. And I go, I haven't had a chance to speak to you because I've been on crutches, how are you doing? And he goes, leave me alone. I was like, what? What have I done? And he goes, I can't concentrate on that. I've got to concentrate on my own pace. I'm going at my own rate. I was like, cool. And then the awkward thing was we were then going at the same pace. And I was like,
in silence.
I was like, do I say something? Yeah, it was good fun. Yeah.
But just going back to who he took inspiration from, there are a few people. I think I took a bit of, definitely there was a few very old people. So that was like, wow, they're still going. Yeah, I was beaten by some, I think they were in their 60s or 60s maybe. Some older ladies in their 60s beat me. Hats off to them. I forget their names, but she was
Laurie.
Yeah, they were just going for it and really motivated. I was also motivated by the young guys. I mentioned Wyatt, but there's another guy called Raf Jackson, 19 years old. He was just pleased to be there. He wasn't a runner. His dad was part of the organising committee, so he had a few opportunities that probably wouldn't come to people normally. But he was just like, he's like, Paris, the opportunity came, I just took it. He's become the youngest Brit to do a marathon on every continent, the youngest Brit to do the Marathon des Sables. He's not even a runner, but he's more accomplished than any runners. And I was just talking to him like, what do your mates think about this? And they're like, they just don't know how to take it. And so it's just really interesting. He was just pleased to be doing it, and also able to give a bit of inspiration to him to say, look, what you're doing is going to be really valuable to you in terms of how you could use that as a speaking career and to inspire people, and where you can go from here. If you're 19 and you've already done these things, what's next? Like, you've got so much ahead of you. So he goes, yeah, I remember he said, but I don't know what to talk about. And then like 1 minute later, he says a line that had so much wisdom in it. I said, that's what you talk about. Things like that, right? And so hopefully there was a bit of sort of two-way inspiration going on there, and I certainly enjoyed running with him. Lindsay, I enjoyed running with. She's run at least a half marathon in every state in America, so 50 states.
Tell us about, rumour has it, someone passed you on crutches in Madrid.
No.
Can we delve into that?
All right, first I'm going to tell the story because James has always had the first dibs on telling the story. Right, and he always likes to take control of the story before I've had my chance.
Hang on, I learn off the best.
Yeah. So, Madrid was a really fun marathon because, firstly, James lost his bags, right? So he was in rock bottom. Like
I'm still crying about it now.
So James can be moody at the best of times, but when he loses his bags and is trying to run marathons, he was pretty annoyed. I had just had a phone call from his brother, unexpectedly, that he was in Madrid airport. And I was like, right, I'm going to capture this on camera. And I was like, James, how you feeling? He's like, lost my bags. Really grumpy. We come through, and I passed the trolley over to Ed, who's like, right, and he's like, oh, hello. And so that lifted his spirits. My good friend was there as well, and we had a really good time in Madrid. I was taking it fairly easy, and I was sort of asking, where's James? And he was like, it's not that far behind you, but I didn't know where he was. And then I was taking my time at one of the stops. In Spain, they have the most delicious oranges you've ever tasted, and when I figured this out, because they'd given us oranges, I was just like eating like 3 oranges
It feels like back to your date story where you consumed 30 dates on a practice run. So you went with the oranges.
Yeah, the oranges in Madrid. Yeah, that's what kept me going. So with 2 laps to go, James comes by, and I'm like, how many more laps have you got?
You're mid-orange, right?
Yeah, I'm mid-orange, and he's like, and he didn't stop for a thing. He's like, 2 more, it keeps going, right? Turns out he had a mission in mind, and it wasn't anything to do with times, anything like that. It was beat Paris, right? And he knew, and I knew, if James beats me on this one, he's
on crutches.
On crutches. I'm never going to be able to sleep tonight, right? Like, I'm never going to be able to like.
We were sleeping next to each other on the plane, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to hear about it for the rest of time. So anyway, he storms off super fast pace because he'd managed by then to really figure out the technique, and it was just like just powering along. I'm like, okay. So I went off, and I knew I had some time to catch up with him, and then I caught up with his brother, and we had a bit of a run. And then I thought, if I stay running with his brother, I'm not going to catch up James. I think he was deliberately trying to slow me down. They had something plotted here, right? So anyway, I carry on by. I'm like, okay, I think if I speed up now, I've got half a lap of this to go. I'll get there with James. And I thought, it's really bad taste to beat a cripple. Right? So I thought, what I'll do is I'll come and we'll run it, and we'll put our arms up together. We'll do this together, right? So I run on by, and we're about 300 meters to the end, right? James looks over his shoulder and then sees me, starts going like crazy. Now, have you ever seen that scene in Forrest Gump where he's being chased by the bullies with his leg braces on? That's what it was like. He's like, and I felt like one of the guys say, "You must better, Forrest." And anyway, so James just sped off and then beat me by about like half a minute. Yeah. And I was thinking,
not about the time though, Paris, is it?
No, he hasn't shut up about it. And in the end, I was like sprinting to try and like catch up with him, and so was he. So yeah, I not only lost to him there, I also lost him in Brazil, but for a different reason. Because I was taking it pretty easy in Brazil. I was enjoying it.
So that's one side of the story. I mean, look, there's a lot of truth in some of that, but it's been exaggerated in others. So when I came past, I wasn't going outrageously fast, but I had 3 laps before been told by my brother that he was only about 15 minutes ahead. Because so obviously I started on crutches quite slowly to start with. And then he powered on past because there's lots of hills and stuff. Going at crutches on a hill is pretty tough, right? And he was basically a lap ahead of me. So I thought, oh, it's gone, right? There's no chance of even running with him, right? We're going to be so far apart because it was what, an 6 kilometer lap. So by the time you come round, it's quite hard to catch up. Anyway, I start getting faster. I'm running with another guy who's injured, who's got a bad knee, and I gave him some meds and stuff. And we said, right, let's go together. That kicked in, and we started being able to go quite fast. So we started building up our pace. And I was going, we're actually doing like 5.5 minute kilometers, which is, that's pretty decent level at the best of times. Right?
Yeah.
So we're going along quite nicely. I was doing some social media, and actually that social media actually transcended some of our viewership quite a lot because I was going into why we're doing it. Anyway, it gets to about 3 laps to go, and my brother tells me, you're only about 8 minutes behind Paris now, right? I went, okay, and I was doing some quick maths.
Stuffing himself full of
oranges. I was doing some quick maths, right? And as I was coming past on the 3rd lap, I saw him in the distance, right? And because it's a Formula 1 track at Irama, you go around corners so you can hide around the corners, right? So I was paranoid to not let him see where I was. So every time he was on a straight, I was like hiding behind the corner basically, and then we're going fast down the straight so he couldn't see because he was on the corners, and then it's going up and down. Anyway, and then I saw him like literally going down this hill which was parallel. So I said, right, okay, this is the lap which I do it, and every
time he sees his brother, he's like, tell him to put more oranges out.
Yeah, exactly.
So my brother, as I said, wasn't able to keep up, even me on crutches, right? So then on the second lap to go, he went back, and then actually I think he ran the last one with you. So I actually think they may have cut corners, maybe. But anyway, so when I was coming past that second lap, I went to my friend. I was like, "This is it. This is the moment we pass him and we leave him behind for dust, right?" And I'm coming past, and he's dousing himself in champagne, caviar, thinking, "Oh, another one in the bag, beating James again." And then an orange, I think, was just all these oranges on the floor. And then he goes, "How many laps you got?" And as I'm going past, fairly sharpish, I go 2, and he saw the blood just drain from his face, going, "I'm never gonna lift this down."
Yeah.
So he's like fumbling around, putting the cork back in the champagne. It's not quite there yet, and then starts chasing after me. Not on crutches. I'm on crutches. He's chasing after me, and we keep the distance well gone. So by the end of that lap, I was probably quite well ahead. Probably about about a kilometre ahead, I reckon, at that time. He obviously starts speeding up. I don't see him because I can't see him now. Story happens, yeah, he's like chasing me down the end, but I said I am not losing after this, so I'm going for it. And then he goes off in a huff, I think, to the showers, and then so I just with my medal on creep into the showers.
No,
Paris, are you in here? Yes. Go away.
No. First of all, I didn't answer because knowing we both went to the same boarding school, and my towel was hanging over the edge. I first took the towel down because I know what we do at boarding school. We steal the towel. So, so I was
Brilliant. No,
but then, again, right, that finished. It was nice to have, I think just having your brother there, my friends there, it lifted the spirits big time.
Sure.
So that was a great one. Lifted the spirits, but then it was very cold. Like soon as we finished the run and the sun had started going down, like we realized, it was cold. The food situation was bad again. It's pizza, and like they really had not thought about the food, which we knew they wouldn't do.
I don't think it's their fault. I think because look, logistically wise, hard to organise it for so many different types of runners as well, right? So I don't think we can blame the organisers, but what I do think is the quality of food which they got in should be better.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, there's certain things that marathon runners, shouldn't really be eating. When we got to Antarctica, right, there was lentil curry, and I was like, that snow is not going to look good with 70 runners. So I, certain things that could have just been more attuned to what marathon runners need. Pizza, not a great idea. It gives a lot of gas and things like that, So, I mean, we did our best, but
it was tasty though. A winner's pizza.
Speaking of being attuned to what marathon runners need, now you've completed this amazing challenge. Is there anything you would have done differently? And let's take the injury out of it for this, but like in the build up to this, or focus more on what you're going to eat in each place, or how you view it in terms of race. What would you give people that are looking to take on a challenge of any?
I feel like it's all about preparation. So I feel we actually prepared pretty well in the food and the supplements situation,
and the drugs.
Yeah. We got our routine quite on point, and I think, without blowing my own trumpet here, but getting those bags, the extra, like the drawstring bags, so we could do our each race bag, was so vital. Like I think.
Well, until you lost your bags, everything in.
No, but even that, like. I knew where all my race kit for each race was.
So we had a system.
I had an extra kit bag for, some of the ball things that we had to warm up with. We had, running belts, all this stuff. So you knew location-wise, right, whack 2 bags into your hand luggage, you have it.
Yeah. So
worst case scenario, you have the next race.
Because if you're thinking like, there's not a lot of time for everything, so you just want without decision making, everything ready. And then you've also got to remember, every now and then, your big bag is going to be locked away somewhere where you can't access it. So you need to make sure that whatever you're going to need is with you. It's very annoying if you've just sat on the plane and now you realize there's something vital you now don't have, and that, you know, that's your only 8 hours of rest, and you don't have something vital. So we had to really think about that, and I think we got that right. So
I would change something. I would change is we were in South Africa for about 5 days prior. I think I would have wanted to go down the route of eating more what we were going to eat a couple of days before, so your body gets used to what you're going to eat. We were eating quite like kings.
It's quite opulently.
I don't know if you saw on social media, but certainly.
I made a couple of deals with some restaurants. We were invited everywhere in South Africa and ate very
well,
gluttonously.
Although the day before we went to an Italian, for obvious reasons, to carbo load, but it was an upmarket Italian. So I don't know if you've been to upmarket Italians, but they don't serve huge quantities. So we kept on asking, can we have another one? Can we have another one? And they're like looking at us going, who are these guys?
It was funny because they played a trick on the waiter because you know, they had this plan for us to set meal and everything. They gave it to us. I'm like, look, we're going to need another round of the main course. They gave that to us. I said, we're going to need another round of the main course again.
It was very tasty.
And then that was enough for us, right? So we had 3 main courses and a few starters and everything else. And I called the waiter, yeah, we're going to need another round again. And he was like, what's going on here? And
they were making pasta, like homemade pasta, like in the kitchen, and you could see it. And it was like, they kept stretching, and the waiter kept coming over, and he was looking back to the kitchen. Another one.
I couldn't believe it. He was just like, we'll have to charge you for it. I was like, yeah, no problem. So you're right. Maybe the food in the week before could have been a little bit less over the top. You know, I don't know how much else I would have changed. I think we did a good job. I think
which kind of brings us on to our next thing. Job done. Tick. You've completed this amazing challenge. The more and more money is coming in for this amazing charity. What have you got coming up for us in the coming weeks and months?
So the big thing for us now is the gala dinner, right? So this is, you know, we knew we were going to raise a bit of money through the actual run. We raised $52,000, but we know that it's the gala dinner where we're really going to be able to pull people together. Now, one big decision that we did make was, instead of having the gala dinner before, we're actually doing it after the race, which is interesting because now we've actually got stories from the race and everybody's seen what we've done, which actually I think helps. You know, I've never thought about doing it this way, but now everyone's like, these guys have actually done that, right? And now we've got the video footage. We've got a lot that we can tell there. So that's the big thing. We don't know how much money we're going to raise, but we've got
targets in mind.
We've got targets. We want to go big.
We do 2nd of May, my birthday. It's not all about me, but it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, speaking of birthdays.
Oh yes.
Mr. Paris.
Yeah, it's my birthday today. Yeah.
We've actually got a lot of oranges for you.
Brilliant.
The Spanish oranges.
Thanks, guys. You called Madrid.
Dates and oranges, yeah. So we do 2nd of May. We haven't got the venue finalised yet, but we're very close. And we do want to get as many people there to support as possible that we can fit in.
Well, let's just say as many rich people there as possible.
Well, look, not just rich, but also
generous, yeah.
Look, there's going to be a lot of prizes and auctions. All the funds that are raised will go to the charities, right? Sparkle and the Sovereign Art Foundation, which are then taking the Sovereign Art Foundation, the art therapy, into Africa. So a new jurisdiction. It's really exciting to be part of a new expansion. So seeing how we can change and transform kids' lives in South Africa and Malawi and potentially other parts of Africa is really exciting. And, you know, it's going to certainly potentially give us an opportunity for future events as well. But just being able to help other unfortunate people in the world, I mean, that's why we did this run, right?
Yeah.
And we've been lucky enough to be part of it, genuinely.
Well, no, we've been lucky enough that you've been part of it because it was pretty lonely, us trying to manage everything, and it went from, you know, a lot of work to be done by 2 guys, and we did have some support from Sovereign.
You saved our friendship.
yeah. But then it became a family, and it really did. Like everybody at Brain Performance Centre was involved and was supporting, and it made it so much more possible. So we've said thank you 1,000 times, and thank you again, because it also made it so much more fun. Because like it's so much like. One thing I realized: if you ever achieve anything amazing, you never do it alone. You do it because of teamwork, and you've got to be welcoming people on who show like, hey, I want to be part of this and I want to support. And we were like,
sometimes they maybe believe in you more before you believe in yourself, because you're in it, you're amongst it, but they see it from the outside and they see potentially what an outrageous challenge it is, and they're almost proud of you before you've even completed it, whether you complete it or not. And then we're focused on completing it, right? But they're able to see maybe the bigger picture.
I mean, just so that you see from our side, it really captivated us here, not just the medical team, but everyone part of the Brain and Performance Centre, to be part of your preparation. But then during it, we were waking up, grabbing our phones in the morning, looking at where are they, what's happened, and it was such a roller coaster for us. So I just want you to appreciate what you put us through and how we've ate. But then also,
is that a complaint?
You made me want to work at night.
So it was.
Your wife's like,
awesome.
put your phone down.
It was incredible to be a part of, and then for you to complete it in such a way, and the way you've kind of spoken about it and framed it has been brilliant. And we look forward to being part of your rehab now. You're back in. You're partaking in doing the hyperbaric chambers, seeing some of the physio team, and
we had an interesting session yesterday. I mean, do you want to talk about that? Because
we dived into reviewing Paris's wearable data from his Garmin, and looked at what it looked like prior to the race, what it looked like during the race, and what it looked like now. And we were looking at everything from the actual runs, what his heart rate was, what his pace was, to more of the lifestyle factors like his sleep, his heart rate variability, which is the time between each beat, and his indicator into whether he is more stressed or less stressed. And was there any key things you took from that review?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because, I mean, when we look at the sleep data and especially the body battery during the race, it was interesting because especially on the Cape Town race where we had no sleep, I started on 0 and ended on 0. It was running on fumes, which was very interesting.
Well, we talked previously about you have this physiological energy, but you can draw so much more from knowing your why and having a really strong purpose, and you gents had dived deep into it. But energy wise, solo, run a marathon in Antarctica, jump on an old Russian plane where no one can really sleep, and you can imagine there's no one's showered afterwards and it's not the best conditions, and then you arrive in Cape Town straight into a marathon. It was significantly hotter, 30 degrees.
Well, I mean, you got Table Mountain on one side. The whole week of Cape Town prior had been like fluctuating in temperature, hadn't it? It had been really windy one day, raining the next, and we were like, hoping I'm going to have to run in this. But ironically, that probably could have been actually quite nice. And then you've got the crashing waves into the seafront, and it was hot, wasn't it? By the end, I think I got chapped lips from that, and which doesn't help. Like when you're trying to run 4 more or 5 more marathons after it. That sort of extreme to extreme, or the polar differences, make a huge difference on your whole body battery, whether you know it consciously or not.
It's just testament to the fact, human spirit. I think there's measurables, and we're very data driven, as you know, in medicine and in the modern world. But there's certain things you just can't measure.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I'm really interested in now, having gone through this experience. And I remember, Taif, you said something that stuck in my mind. We were talking about our friend Maria, who had done the same challenge, but like a while back. And you said initially you were like, she didn't train hard enough. She wasn't sort of athletic. She was a nightmare when it came to, trying to coach her. And then you saw her go out there and just deliver. And it's like, who is this woman? Right? And then you realize there's something that isn't taught in the sports science model, and it's this grit and tenacity. And how do you calculate that? How do you hone that? And where does it come from? And how do we measure it? That, I think, is something we don't understand as a human society. Just
You gents, having completed that, you've shown yourself what you can do. So anytime you're put in those situations, it gives you perspective. You've been through worse.
So I remember going back to our podcast, what was it, 6 weeks ago, roughly, and you asked the question of, you know, who do you think, I think the question was, who do you think has more likelihood of completing it? I think that was something along those, and you went, you, and I went, no, me. Because, but I was like, there was never a moment in my thought process that I wasn't going to finish this. But I want to bring back the psychology side of it, because I didn't necessarily treat the psychology side of the centre as maybe as important as maybe what it could have been. Because when I did the challenge, went through the different highs and lows, you know, the highs of Antarctica, the lows of Cape Town and Perth, the highs back in Dubai, being off the crutches and doing a half decent time, feeling strong, lows of losing my bags, highs of my brother turning up, highs of getting a world record in Madrid, beating Paris, Fortaleza, another world record.
let's talk about the times you lost to me.
Hang on. And then another world record in Fortaleza. Got to Miami and my hands, my legs were in pieces. Like, so I had tendonitis in virtually all parts of my legs. My back, as we found out, has got perforated discs and bulging out of areas that shouldn't be there. And I was really low when I finished. I obviously happy that I finished and we got all these medals. Great. And we've done so much fantastic stuff for the charity. That was awesome. But whether or not it was just a huge adrenaline like deload, I was for about 2 days really depressed. No, I didn't think.
Not 2 days, mate. 4 days.
Yeah.
You were
well, maybe it's
miserable.
because you forced me to do a load of camera work the next day. But I was just like, I didn't want to speak to anyone. My family are around, and we had a good celebration breakfast there, but it felt very flat. I felt flat anyway. So I think maybe when we go back to the question of maybe what you would change, maybe I'd treat the psychology side of what to expect after, and understand that there's no right or wrong answer there. I think you've just got to understand that, your body's then going back, the body battery is going back and it's trying to find its balance again. And, don't put any expectations on yourself for after the race, and just, appreciate what you've done. It's been a hell of a journey. And then we can then look forward to like the gala dinner and really celebrating, because I think it won't probably be until then, the gala dinner, until we really actually appreciate what we've actually achieved.
Great. I mean, before we wrap up, there were a few specific questions, quick answers without thinking. Hardest moment on this whole journey?
Cape Town.
Dubai, about second half, where I just couldn't run anymore.
Yeah. Cape Town, because no sleep, no rest, no warm up, having done a real good marathon, and then first step, dagger going through my right knee, right where the adductor attaches to the knee, someone twisting it for 10k, hobbling through 10k and going, I'm literally in tears here, couldn't go on. But then also ironically, probably one of the biggest highs as well, because I've got crutches, and it's all about expectations, right? All about expectations, because managing to then get through it was a massive high. So probably worst and best moment.
And your best moment?
Best moment? I think I really enjoyed finishing.
Madrid?
Yeah, Madrid.
Yeah.
No, it was, because...
The oranges.
Yeah. I was happy. I don't know why. I just really enjoyed Madrid. Yeah.
It was a good race, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I don't know why. It was just like we had friends there. It was fun because it was many laps. We got to see people more. I really enjoyed Brazil, but it was dangerous because I ended up being out there quite a while, and it was super hot, like really dangerously hot.
Did you see me bonking
No.
Not like that. It was Brazil. It was Brazil, and there were a lot of hot ladies.
Yeah.
But no, it was like, so it's a terminology where you get dehydrated and you basically, your whole body starts shutting down. I was doing snakes on crutches, even though I actually still managed to do a world record. It was like for about half a lap. I didn't know where I was. It was an out-of-body experience. I was singing to myself. Could have been the tramadol. But then managed to get into the halfway tent. Had a couple of stealth gels, a bit of pizza, I think, and some salt tablets, and then bang, straight back out. But it was like I had to take about 10-15 minutes out because I was literally didn't know where I was. It was crazy. And that was just the heat. And it went from not too bad a heat. It was humid at about 8:30, 9 o'clock to really hot. Like the sun came up and it was like, it was almost like Dubai heat, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was piercing. Yeah.
And you had different temperatures, different humidity,
Yeah.
different gradients. What was the most challenging conditions of all of them? As a marathon.
I would say Fort Laser.
Yeah, that was
Because
that.
Antarctica, we were prepared for it, right?
Yeah.
Because we had all the kit, right? In Fortaleza, what do you do? Take more kit off, which we did ended up doing.
Yeah. I'll go with you on that one. Fortaleza, it was definitely the hottest one. So effectively, after 10 o'clock, so James ran a fast marathon. That was a clever thing to do. I, from the start, was like, I'm going to take this easy. I'm going to roll. I'm not, I've got one more after this. If I can do this one, I'm through. So I took it easy. Not such a good idea because after 10 o'clock, it then got
Really?
so hot. I was like, I've got to worry about sun exhaustion here. If I get sun exhaustion, how am I going to run the next day? Like that, imagine waking up with a migraine, like feeling dizzy, like that could be a deal killer for the next day. So I was realizing I'm in a bit of a danger zone.
To put it into perspective, to cool down, and I'm on crutches, right? To cool down, it took me about an hour and a half. I couldn't shower for an hour and a half because I was sweating so much.
Yeah. There's this one guy from Alabama called Greg. In the last 5 kilometers, he was behind me, and we were starting to lose it in the heat. And Americans can be very loud, and we're just blistering hot. It's like, Paris, you're the fireman. You put out the flames, my brother. I'm just like, yeah, man.
He was the one. He was one of the guys that got me through in Australia.
Yeah,
legend, absolute legend. That wasn't really a fast fire question.
Yeah. Hang on. We'll be
The
quick.
last one, and I think probably from you, important, I think, because it's always important to have purpose. What's next? After you've achieved probably the highest of highs,
Yeah.
what's going to keep you driven? What's the next thing that you guys have got planned?
I said this to you, and I think that there's a famous saying that someone has an Everest in them, right? Not saying you actually climb Everest, but your Everest. I don't agree with that. I think there's like a mountain range. And just because you think this is your Everest now doesn't necessarily mean it's your Everest next week, next year. So I think it's all about understanding that in life, you need to keep setting goals and keep seeing the next mountain in front of you. It's probably a false peak because you've got to keep pushing yourself. And it goes down to perseverance and getting through it. For me personally, I think the next challenge will be the gala dinner. I think in a totally different aspect. Let's get through that, and then I can then really set my sights. I have got a few things in my mind which I've sort of said yes to, maybe in haste. Got to get my body back in check, which I think is gaining momentum. Seeing my kids, and then after the gala dinner, really make the choices. But yeah, watch your space.
Yeah, I think it's important that you are happy enough with something that you've done and not feel like you have to do something else. So I, if there was never another adventure again, I'm fine with that. But one thing I learned from the singer James Blunt, we had a chat at our last gala dinner.
You are beautiful.
Yeah, he said, I am beautiful. That's what he said. He said that, I took inspiration from, like, they have their creation process where they're writing songs and then in the studio doing it. And then once they've released it, they're then touring, selling. Right? We've done the creative thing now. We've now got footage. We've done this whole period, this whole year of building up to this. Now it's time to sell, right? So for me, it's about, right, how do we package that into the documentary and really get that out there and get that as far as we can? How do I make more out of the public speaking things that I've already started doing? How do we spread the message about everything we're doing, the gala dinner? So all these things that are more business focused, but are part of this whole thing. You know, as much it's just as much a challenge to run these things as it is to raise the money, to do the media, everything that goes around it. So I really want to put all into that without too much distraction from something else, but I'm sure there'll be another adventure soon.
The one thing that I'd say what I've taken from this, because I think that's maybe one question we haven't maybe answered, is that in any walk of life, whether it be your relationships, whether it be your work, your business, or new challenges, don't set your goals too low. You can achieve anything you put your mind to, as long as you've got the right mindset. Now, if you set your goals too low, whatever the target might be, you'll achieve it, but you'll also achieve it if you set your goals much higher. So don't limit yourself. You can literally achieve anything you want.
Do you know who says that?
Who?
Donald Trump.
Is he? MAGA.
In his book, he says, you know, basically that. And look,
I don't think he came up with that.
But probably he wasn't the first guy, but, you know, there's a guy who's gone and said president.
Yeah.
President a second time. Like, you just do whatever he wants to do.
He won't take no for an answer.
And that's down to his tenacity. And, you know, don't have to like him, but love him or hate him.
Maybe don't take everything he does.
But he
exactly.
he does what he wants, and that's because he has that belief, and it's totally true.
I've seen it in the business world, right? I've seen it in sales targets with my team. They set their targets at a certain level, they hit them. But if they had set themselves targets just so no double, they would probably hit them as well. So don't limit yourself.
Anything else that you'd like to ask?
Great, I think we've covered it, and really interesting to hear front row seats to what happens during a challenge like this, and the aftermath, the pre, during. It's fantastic.
Being part of the pit stop team actually was
amazing. Actually, in Dubai, that was amazing, because you say the pit stop after, but actually during the race was a literal pit stop, because I was having a pit stop every 5 or 6 kilometers to get my knee done so I could keep running.
And I think I could probably safely say that if we hadn't have done that in Dubai, if I didn't have you guys there, I think that could have been the end of the road for me. I was in a bad state. So you know, the next day in Madrid, I was back on my feet. So like that saved me.
Well, and it allowed me to have the impetus to finish Perth. So I think you guys can take huge credit for not only keeping us motivated, but actually keeping us on the road. So massive thank you.
So should we finish up with giving James his missing suitcase?
Yes. Can you imagine? to be honest,
the highlight of the whole trip.
To be honest, I have commandeered Craig's suitcase at the moment, so I need it because I'm travelling to Thailand next week. But don't tell him that.
Nice. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very
pleasure.
much. And most important, date 3rd of May. 2nd of May. Apologies.
And if anyone wants to keep donating, you know, the links are still there. Follow us on Strides for Good. You'll get some good content.
And if people do want to come to the gala dinner, just get in touch with us.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we'll provide all that information. Thank you once again. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your efforts. And we look forward to seeing you around.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Stuff. Is that much?
Thank you.
Nice.
Good stuff.